Boyertown, Pennsylvania. I'm going to call other people's names so you can wait, so we will have a delay. Charles Haddad will be the next individual, and Mary Ann Geary will be the next individual.
Right, as you mentioned, my name is Linda Clutterbuck, and tonight I'm here to support the renovation. Tonight I'm here to support the renovation of the historic or old school building. I do live in Boyertown. I'm a resident here, and part of what attracted me to this community 13 years ago when I was looking to move back here to Pennsylvania was the historic architecture in the community. It's a lovely place, and I wanted to be part of that. I think it's important to note that I didn't go to school in the Boyertown School District. I don't have the emotional connections that some of the folks do here in the audience. I went to a small school about an hour north of here. It's a historic school, and the high school is still being used for education purposes to this day. As I understand it, your job as a school board is certainly to make sure that the children and the adults in the district are educated to the best possible degree. Part of that education, to me, is influencing the community about what's important and on how to help the community grow around education. By preserving the historic school building, I think that you will be setting an example and influencing sustainable growth and conservation of the natural resources. Obviously, this is part of your plan. You want to be a LEED certified building, and you want to practice sustainability. So this certainly reinforces that. Part of your job is also to create a sense of place for the students who walk through the doors in the morning so that they feel safe and can learn in the best fashion. By choosing to renovate the old school, you would be contributing to this sense of place. The old school building is a structure with unique architectural elements. You can try and recreate that with a new building that looks old, but you can never truly recreate what is old. That building also comes with nearly 100 years of stories. You'd be teaching the students to respect the history of the community of Boyertown.
30 seconds.
And you would maintain a connection across the generations. If it's feasible to renovate the old school building and it would be more cost effective, I think it's imperative that you choose preservation. I understand that you've received petitions with signatures of thousands of individuals who live in the community that support renovation. I ask that you use this as a teachable moment and demonstrate to the community that education includes just more than bricks and mortar buildings. Thank you.
Mr. Haddad, and after Mary Ann Geary, we're going to be calling Hugh Kelly and Christine Endy.
My name is Charles Haddad, resident of 209 North Monroe Street, Boyertown, class of 54, graduate of Boyertown High School. I normally try and have a soft lead-in when I speak, but I couldn't find any more yearbooks or report cards for myself, so I could not do that same intro as last month. We are supposed to give alternative solutions to the question of building. That is impossible to do unless you would give us, residents of Boyertown, the same assets and money that you gave to others to develop a plan for you. If I went to a doctor and he said, I'm going to take off your arm, Mr. Haddad, I would say, I want a second opinion. And the only thing I'll say to the school board, you ought to get a second opinion.
Geary, and after Christine Endy, the next two people will be Veronica Knapp and Chris Nyman.
Sure.
very much.
Ms. Deary.
Thank you. Good evening. I am Mary Ann Deary, and I'm the mayor of Boyertown. First of all, there is no doubt that a lot has been put into this project. There's no question about that. But I'm here to voice not only my concerns, but also serve as a voice for the residents of Boyertown. I also have a solution that I think is worth considering. The board has chosen option 5. For obvious reasons, the discussions have been focusing on the senior high school with the projected cost of $55 million. But option 5 also includes $30 million for junior high east and west, and almost $29 million for Colebrookdale and a new elementary school. Ladies and gentlemen, we are not just talking about $55 million. It's almost $114 million. The school district currently has a debt of $37.54 million. Now that's just the principal. And now you want to incur almost another $114 million over the next 5 years. And again, we're just talking about $114 million, and that's just principal. The board chose option 5. I propose another option, one not discussed before because it was never an option. I'll call mine option 6. We have been advised that there's overcrowding in the elementary schools. Why not let's fix what is broken and provide temporary classrooms if necessary. I also suggest that we leave grades 6 and 9 just where they are, and I believe that to be temporary also. I also think we should put the additions and the upgrades to the senior high school on hold. Why do I make these recommendations? I have 4 reasons. Number 1, the old building has historical significance and is a landmark to this community and the school district. Number 2, this community is struggling. Some people have lost their homes, they lost their jobs, businesses are hanging on by a thread.
30 seconds.
The residents cannot absorb more taxation. Third, the school area is landlocked. I question if the architect has given sufficient consideration to maybe moving the building up and not sprawling outwards. And fourth, I believe we should review some of the fluff. I would like to challenge the architects into taking the old school architecture and incorporate the new school building with a similar architectural theme. I strongly suggest that you hold off construction and go back to the drawing board. I believe the architects and the school board and administration could well receive significant recognition and uniquely combine the historic with the future. I sincerely believe the school board, the administration, and teachers want the best for their students. However, bricks and mortar don't make for smarter kids.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next individual is Hugh Kelly, and after, I believe, Chris Nyman will be Hank Bish, B-I-S-H-E, Brenda Meitzler, and Linda Curry in order. Hugh Kelly.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Can you hear me? No? I'm not using up my time. Okay, can everybody hear me now?
Yes.
Good. It's kind of hard to follow those other people because they've said a lot of the things I was going to say. And I agree pretty much wholeheartedly with them. But I would like to say that the board members have worked very hard on this, and that as being a school board member is not easy. I didn't realize how big this district was, but I visited all the school board members today because I had a letter. And I don't know if the solicitor wants to put this into the record at this point or should I submit it later.
We can acknowledge it. And
Okay, that's fine. That's
We
fine.
will include that as,
I believe we're Exhibit F right now.
Okay, I'm not really reading the letter. I'm just speaking off the cuff. We got here by being too crowded down in Montgomery County. Temporary classrooms, which were mentioned, They're not a bad option at all. I don't know how we got to the idea of doing this project at the high school level. Somebody had to suggest it. Somebody had to tell the architect to get started on this. The plan that was put up here on the screen for us that shows the nice colored chart that shows the layout of the school, etc., shows that half of the old school has been removed. Nowhere in the planning does it mention this. I find this to be extremely misleading to those people in Harrisburg. The architect should go back and redesign for the old school to use that in some capacity. I got into this kind of late. I mean, I woke up when somebody told me the old school was going to be torn down. I said, I can't believe that. Why would you do something like this? Usually the old school is probably going to become a greener school than anything you build. It's probably stronger than anything the architect has designed for us at this point. And besides, it's a handsome school. I think we should keep it. What are we going to do at this point? Well, I'd say go back, have the architect draw up a plan there. And as far as the academy systems are concerned, an academy system could be tried with one academy, not 4 at one time. It would be much more, it would give us a chance to see whether or not that is going to work for us. Another thing is, we could, with the temporary classrooms, I think we should also get started on adding on to a school in the district. Holbrookdale would be good. That would be, the school we're in here would help. As far as transferring the 6th and 9th graders, that really creates a problem. It creates a serious problem in the Pine Forge and Earl schools. They're at low capacity now. They're going to be even lower if you take the 6th grade out. And I don't think the people who live in those areas are going to want to lose their school.
30 seconds.
I think I've said everything I want to say, and I just hope that the board members here exercise their rightful power and take some of the public suggestions to heart. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Christine Endy.
My name is Christine Endy. I'm a resident, a parent, and a taxpayer living at 310 West 6th Street, Boyertown. I first want to point out that on page 5 of your own rules for public participation for tonight, you say that we will have an opportunity to ask questions about the presentation. In addition, you want to receive public comment. I find that that is not taking place. I do have 2 specific questions regarding the presentation. On page 36, you refer to the fact that there is a 20% reimbursement, I believe, from the state funding towards the $50 million. My calculation of 20% of $50 million is $10 million, and yet in there you're showing a reimbursement of $23 million. I'm not sure where that comes from. Secondly, on page 32, where I believe you're talking about student capacities, you have a student capacity over, I believe, 4,000 students. If I take 9th to 12th grade, 600 students per grade, that's 2,400 kids. Take that away from 4,000, you're somewhere between, I think you said 1,300, I get 2,000. You're building 2,000 students over capacity. Your needs are at the elementary level. If you look at your own presentation, your capacity at the junior highs and senior highs through 2021 are never met. You have capacity. You don't have capacity at the elementary. Junior high east and west had temporary classrooms for years. They work, they're fine. I think you can do something other than build a college campus of $55 million, which is what you're proposing. You're not meeting the needs of your students right now. As you've heard from me before, my 7th grader has to sit in study halls next year because you can't staff the junior highs. My 10th grader does not have a single textbook to bring home because you don't have enough books. When I asked about adding a teacher for the understaffing in junior highs, I was told there's no money in the annual budget for even a single staff person. Your projection of needing $250,000 of additional staff on the additional costs in here are no way going to meet the additional costs on an annual basis that you will need to run this school you're trying to build. You need to get your priorities straight. You need to take a look at it. You need to do what's right for kids. And that's not what you're projecting right now.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and board members. I pray my words will not fall on deaf ears, because I'm only a voice in the wilderness crying out to be heard. My name is Veronica Neck. I have lived most of my life in the Boyertown area school district. My 6 children graduated from Boyertown High School, also my 1 granddaughter. I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to you, addressing my concerns and views about this proposal for a newer and grander high school that has recently come to my attention. I don't envy the board one little bit, and I don't want to be in their shoes at this time. But we elected the board members to be responsible for our children, grandchildren, and our great-grandchildren's education and what is in their best interest. I don't know if what we are doing is in their best interest. I beg you, the board, and only you, have the power to stop and rethink this proposal to build a new arts academy that will only benefit a handful of gifted students, while the majority of our students will graduate only to find no jobs available nor funds to continue their education because their parents will be paying more taxes. Now, I know a lot of you think $55 million is not a lot of money for a school, but believe me, when I say the taxpayers do think it is an enormous amount compared to the $11 million to restore and maintain the old school building to its fullest potential. The old school held 700 students 60 years ago and was not considered crowded. If it was maintained properly, it could be used for classrooms. We need more classrooms in some of the elementary schools because there are more and more young families moving into the school district every day. I'm not worried about paying this enormous debt because I and most people here will be dead and buried by the time this comes due and must be paid. Also, you cannot guarantee to the taxpayers that Harrisburg will fund any of this expense. So I ask you people with the power to please stop and rethink this whole plan for the sake of your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren who will have to bear the cost of this grandiose plan for a high school, and please put plans in place for more elementary classrooms. Thank you.
Good evening. I am asking that you please cease and desist this project because the stated basis for the high school and other building projects to assess student population growth, I would like to go over the results of the district's 2 accurate projection methods, PDE and Pell. Methods 2 and 3 are Pell projections. Method 2 is stated by EI as preferred, and so method 3 can be ignored. Method 2 says that our schools have, at all levels, enough capacity through 2020-2021 school year. Method 1 has some questionable projection results for the only year we can check against actual enrollment. 76 more students are projected in Method 1 in 2011 than actually attended our schools. Before 2011, the online PDE data and EI data agreed for total student population. If the PDE projection in Method 1 keeps on overestimating the student body, we will be building and shifting student grade levels for no reason. Even if Method 1 projections are assumed to be okay, and the last year of the projections for the senior high does indeed suddenly jump up by 101 students from the previous year, the kindergarten and first grade basis for the grades is questionable too. If the pattern in the kindergarten and first grades data was found by PDE, it generates a pattern across the projections later grade levels. The kindergarten and first grade numbers are based on live births. However, the 2010 census shows that 8,225 students ages 5 to 17 were in the district, yet only 7,099 attended Boyertown schools. If 2/13 of these extra 1,126 students are kindergarten and first graders, 173 students will not be Boyertown elementary level students, even though they are reflected in the live births. The maximum projected elementary population of 3,944 students, minus these 173, is 3,771 students, which is below the 3,850 capacity of our elementary schools. Junior high is fine for capacity at its projections. If 3/13 of the non-public students subtracted from the senior high population, this is 260 students, the highest senior high population projected is 1,856 students, minus the 260 is 1,596 students, which is well below the building's capacity of 1,835 students.
30
So,
seconds.
since we have no capacity problem between now and 2021, why again are we spending about $194 million on all the building projects, including $94 million for the high school? Why must we do any expansions or renovations to these buildings when we need to do is maintain the buildings we're still paying for? If we don't have to renovate the old building, we will not need to be brought up to newer codes. And so it keeps on safety being used for the student instruction instead of being disrespectfully torn down. We should certainly be following the path into a black hole of debt that the Upper Kirk, Daniel Boone, Exeter, Fleetwood, and Allentown are in from the excessive spending. Let's learn from the mistakes and cease this immediately. I will be getting this to Dave because I did not get all of it. I'll see that you get it tomorrow so that it can be made public.
Thank you very much. You'll actually have until the deadline to submit all the written testimony. So you got beyond tomorrow. Thank you. Hank Bish.
.514 Anglesville Road, Boyertown. Taxpayer, Boyertown Township. Resident of Boyertown for 75 years. I have walked around that old school, and I have been in that old school. And as far as I can tell, it's not falling down. And did you look at the building lot that it sits on? It's really not that big. So unless you're going to replace it with a multi-story building, basically it's good for a parking lot, which is the way I understand is that's what you want to do. Now a parking lot creates more problems with cars and traffic. So what is your solution? Well, let's extend Monroe Street out to Montgomery Avenue. Did you look where that comes out at? Right at the crest of the hill. So let's get out on there on Montgomery Avenue and go up the road. What do we pass? Another school, actually this school, more problems. And then you come out at an intersection at North Reading Avenue. Not a good intersection. Well, let's go the other way. And we'll go down there, and we come down to the configuration there that comes out of the Redner Shopping Center. Another lousy intersection. But if we make it over to Route 100, well, there's been numerous accidents there for people running red lights. Well, let's go up the other way. Let's go straight up Montgomery Avenue and come out on East Philadelphia Avenue. Has anybody ever tried to come out of that intersection? Not an easy task. So school board members, if you're here today and gone tomorrow, don't make decisions for those of us that are here and going to stay here.
Brenda Meitzler.
My name is Brenda Meitzler, and I'm a taxpaying resident of Boyertown Area School District and a Boyertown graduate. Thinking over the high school building project, I have some thoughts for the board. Many people are not having as many kids as they used to, and with more people taking their kids out of the public schools, are you sure we'll have the student population grow enough to force shifting grades from elementary to junior high and junior high to senior high? So we force the senior high to expand. The preferred population estimate in your feasibility study shows no space problem in the elementary or junior high or senior high. The district says we have overcrowding in some of the elementaries now, which is supposedly the basic reason for this high school project. But your feasibility study shows we have the room in our schools right now. The district just hasn't shifted the student population to move more kids to the next closest school that has the room. That's not right and should be fixed before the next school year. The district said it's going to tear down at least part of the old high school and demolish or abandon the rest of the old part, and then replace the same classrooms it just demolished with new classrooms. It doesn't sound like a wise use of money to me. We are teaching the kids in these rooms now, so I'm sure they are good enough now, so why aren't they good enough for kids going forward? The district says it costs too much to fix our old high school up to code. But if you don't have to expand the senior high because you really don't need to move the 9th grade there, then you don't have to fix up the existing parts of the school to meet new code requirements. And that includes the old building. Save our money and put it to maintaining the building we have. Speaking of maintenance, the district said the old high school building would cost up to $250,000 each year to maintain, as another reason to tear it down. When we got the details of these costs, lo and behold, $120,000 of this cost was assumed to be for the custodians alone. Surely the cleaning of this building could be done for far less than this, for a facility that doesn't really get dirty. Knowing this, the old building doesn't appear that expensive to maintain after all. Originally, the payment term for this job was assumed to be 20 years, but your finance firm assumed we'd have to be paying for 29 years or splitting the financing into 2 separate parts. At last Thursday's committee meeting, various construction managers said the project would be complex or difficult to do.
30 seconds.
Shouldn't these things raise a red flag to the board if the project is safe for our finances or how much our kids' education will be disrupted while the high school being sliced and diced? We do not need a makeup room, a recording studio, 2 cafes in our high school, and a gym for the teachers. Please rethink this project before you destroy a building that has many years of service left and before you saddle all of us with a fancy makeover that we cannot afford. Thank you.
Will be the next speaker from our sign-up list. And just for the record, I want to note the board members who are present for today's hearing. And those board members are John Crossley, Gwen Simmons, Barbara Hartford, Joseph Nichols, Ruth Giroff, Donna Savage, Stephen Elsier, and Dr. Ronald Crispin. Ms. Curry.
Okay. Actually, you kind of stole my thunder because that's what I was going to talk about. First of all, I would like to say that I plan on submitting written testimony by the May 10th, 2013 date. I attended last Thursday's Facilities Committee meeting. Most of the construction management groups that were there giving presentations had described this high school project as complex and difficult. A project that is complex and difficult, I feel, could equate to additional costs. I hope this board isn't biting off more than it can chew with this project. I'm opposed to the fact that this project does not include the use of the old structure. We're using the building now for educational programs, and probably, if this proceeds, this project will use it again for educational programs. And we should make good use of this existing structure. I have asked numerous times what the state would reimburse the district if the programs currently in there would remain and the building would be renovated. I have yet to receive an answer on that dollar amount. You have a viable building. Please use it. And that's it. Thank you.
Ruth Baker, 15 Delbridge Road, Boyertown, PA. I wanted to briefly go over a few things that I would be mentioning in my written testimony. First of all, obviously the costs have been touched on by many. I won't restate what I've stated before. It is unaffordable in my opinion. We just have too much debt already. We cannot go the way of these other districts who are finding they have to cut academic programs when suddenly the piper has to be paid. I would really urge a sensitivity analysis on these state reimbursements because we have been told that the state is broke in its construction fund. We know that other districts are waiting years for reimbursement, and we are behind over 160 projects at PlanCon G, and we're here going into PlanCon D. How are we going to get money? I don't think we can assume that, respectfully. The other thing that may interest you, back in 1994, there was a rumor of moving 9th grade to senior high, and the Education Association came out strongly against it in the newspapers, even though it was just a rumor. I'm not hearing that same sentiment today from our staff, and I find that surprising. Specifically, the points they made at that time, and here is what was in the Pottstown Mercury at the time. They said, the students coming in from 9th grade will be absorbed into a sprawling complex with a total population of nearly 2,000 students becoming just a number. Student participation in sports, music, and other activities will be drastically reduced. Participation in leadership roles will be severely limited. Emotional, physical, and social development will be taking place in a less age-appropriate setting. Do you really think that those conditions are any different now, with all the new pressures of electronic media and unwholesome things that go on to move younger kids up to the high school? The other thing that hasn't been mentioned much is the disruption on the students at the high school. Given that this is a complex and difficult project to do while you've got students in the high school, how are you going to avoid having them severely affected by the construction, their selection of courses, etc.? There's been a suggestion also to put the administration over in the old building.
30 seconds.
Thank you. And if that's the case, then there'll be additional renovation costs and you will have to build new classrooms for that. If you do not get rid of the instructional space in the old building, you won't have to build new for it. I do agree, the population projections do not show that you need to do a darn thing for capacity in this district up till 2021. So save yourself the necessity to do renovations up to code that you don't need to do unless you renovate or expand, and save our money and save our students the hassle. Thank you.
Mr. Knapp is going to check out the sign-up sheet once again to see if anybody else signed up. The sign-up sheet reflects no other individuals who have signed under the terms of the rules. In the event, now that we've gone and exhausted the list, in the event that any one of the individuals who have already spoken would like to come up again and speak, they would be given that opportunity. Is there anybody else who would like an opportunity to speak again? There being no other individuals who have signed up or who have already spoken and wanted to speak again, I would request that the testimony of this hearing be closed at this point, with the exception of the written testimony that can be submitted until noon on Friday, May 10th, 2013. All of the written testimony will be eventually copied and shared with all of the school board members prior to the board members voting on the Plan-Con procedures, which I believe are going to be scheduled during the month of May at our May board meeting. So that's when the board is going to vote on the Plan-Con procedures. And just for the benefit of everybody here, the fact that the board would vote to approve the Plan-Con D submission to the Pennsylvania Department of Education does not bind the school district for any costs other than the costs of its design professionals in moving forward. It is not until the board eventually goes to bid and lets contracts on the project that the board becomes contractually committed on this project. And it's not until the board actually borrows money that it becomes committed to repay that money. So this is just one step in a multi-step process required under state law. I'm going to be requesting that as Exhibit G, the sign-up sheets be appended to the record. And unless there is no other comments on the part of our professionals here, we would ask that this hearing be closed and that you would have to give us a few minutes so that we get set up for our delayed, but still to come, regular public meeting of the Boyertown School District. And don't sit on the edge of your seats. It's bound to be an interesting meeting. Motion to adjourn.